I got a chance to try out the X-E5 at my local camera store, so let's discuss. So I thought we'd have a look at the build quality first. So I managed to get a decent bit of B-roll of the camera and had a good sort of tactile look at it. It's a very, very nice build. It's about the same size as the X100V or VI, the cameras, with that little 23mm on, which is a very nice little compact lens, which I think a lot of people have been waiting for a long time for Fuji to bring out the XF 23mm f2.8, and it is a very, very small lens and very nicely made, and we'll talk about more on that lens a little bit later. But the top of the camera has got this lovely brushed aluminium. It's metallic, or it appears to be made of metal, so the camera's quite weighty in the hand. Viewfinder's tucked away neatly in the corner. It's quite comfortable against the eye. And it's got a neat little trick that even though it's only 2.4 million pixels, it worked really well. And I'll show you that. I got some footage of the actual retro mode of the viewfinder, which we'll look at later in the video. I've got my notes down here to follow. And of course we've got the new film simulation dial on the top of the camera as well, sort of situated in a much more premium feel to it, more like on an old film camera you might have the little window with the number for the position of where the film is, and it's been done in a similar style. It's not as in the X-E5 or the X-E50 where the dial is a physical in-your-face dial, and I think a lot of people didn't like that, and I wasn't keen on it. But this new interpretation, it's subtle. So we've also got, as we sort of start looking at some of the interesting features, again, X100V, you've got a front lever dial and a front button, again, very premium build, on the front of the camera, which can be customised. So you could use it for what you want. It's not just a case of having it as a pre-set dial. I think it was for the on the X100 series, it was set so you could switch between the different kinds of viewfinders. So again, you could set it to switch between the different viewfinder modes. There's like a retro viewfinder mode with a light meter, or you could switch between the standard. And let's have a little quick look while we're looking at the features. I filmed the retro mode, and obviously I wear glasses, and although my vision's for reading, it's not too bad. I can make things out about a metre away from me. I still struggle to see screens because everything tends to, for want of a better word, glows round white writing or bright things. And what they've done is they've got, you see the writing's in red, in little sort of old-fashioned retro LEDs and a light meter, like a little old-fashioned cameras had. And it works really well, and actually it makes the viewfinder settings very precise to read. And I found that viewfinder, when I've used the XS20, I found that viewfinder felt better because of that retro mode. And I know that's not what it was for, but it kind of harks back to a simplicity where you got the basics, and rather than have the large numbers on, which you can do on a Fuji camera, put the large display on, I much rather like the red, because red is one of those colours that doesn't, if you do an astrophotography, use red because it doesn't affect your eyes when they adjust to light. And I think that's what it is about these bright displays, is anybody who's visually impaired would probably realise this, and I think if you've got, you are starting to wear reading glasses, you might find a unintended consequence of this mode is that it's actually much easier to use than trying to jam glasses up against the viewfinder. And I tend to use the diopter, which again is very subtly integrated into the camera in a very nice way on the side of the camera. So again, nice and accessible, but again, it's been lumped on quite a good thought as, again, a bit of a retro looking dial. The screen, we've got a flip up screen, and it's slightly different to the X-E4 from what I understand, in that it sort of pivots out a little bit more. Again, I've got a bit more footage so you can see what it looks like. And it flips up neatly on the top, so if you want to do a selfie, you can. If you want to film yourself. And it just gives that extra little bit of flexibility that you didn't get with the X-T50 or the X-T5, because their screens didn't flip. I do wish they'd made it like the three-way tilt that the X-T5 had that could also flip up, because when you're shooting in portrait orientation, it's a little bit awkward to see the screen because it doesn't angle up like the X-T5. And that, I think, is a little bit of a miss at this price point, because it's quite a premium camera. And I said we'd talk about that film simulation dial, which has 3 film simulation recipes. I didn't get a chance to look in detail at the menu, but from what I understand, and I could be wrong, and I will go do another video on when I pick my camera up in a month's time, it would appear that you can assign a recipe to each of the 3 custom film simulation positions, or simply, as in the XM5, you can assign your chosen film simulation. Now, I don't know if you can store more recipes in the camera and choose them. It doesn't appear to be that way, but there is a C mode on the dial that you can use, and I don't know whether then you can choose from a menu. I didn't get a chance to try that, because it's one thing to look at a camera, and it's another thing to try and work out how a new menu system works in a space of an hour or so while you're there trying to get B-roll, talk to them, and sorting out another camera. I'll do another little video on that as well to give you an update on my Fuji cameras, but this is X-E5, so I'm not going to go into that in any detail. So, as far as I know, you can definitely store 3 film simulations with grain, everything. The colour chrome effect, colour chrome blue, clarity, all of that you can put into the actual film simulation, which technically you had to store in a profile, which you don't have to do now. So even having 3 is great. Whether you can have more and just assign 3, I don't know. That's what I want to look into a little bit more. If I do find any more information out, I'll pop it in the description below and maybe put a link to what I found so you can watch that. And that's basically the camera. I'm quite excited to get it, but it's still I believe the indication was it's around early to mid-August in the UK for release. Never know, sometimes they come sooner. Don't know. I know that I'm thankfully quite high up the waiting list, so should get a camera, assuming there's no problems with supply. If my camera, a little camera shop, gets a reasonable number of the cameras in, which I would have thought they would, I think I'm pretty well up the list. But pre-orders have been very, very strong on the camera, so it's probably going to sell out when on launch, which is kind of why I pre-ordered it. But anyway, let's quickly finish off with the 23mm lens. I just had a quick play I didn't get any sample photographs from it, but I did manage to sort of try it out, see what it's like for focusing. It's not the fastest lens for focusing, but it's not kind of a sporty lens. It's perfectly adequate for taking a picture of a person. It's it's snappier than I thought, quite responsive. So I think it's a little street photography lens, which is what it's aimed at, to keep the camera nice and subtle and discreet. I haven't done street photography for a while, and really not since I sold my X100V. I stopped doing street photography because I used to use that all the time. I think that'll have a bit of a resurgence. I used to do the POV walks, if you look at my older videos. And I love 23mm. Although I've sold my current 23mm lens, my Viltrox. As I say, more on that in another video. Because I knew I was getting this one in a matter of a month or so. So it is really, really compact. About the same size as the TT Artisan 27mm, which I've also sold. As I said, good focus speed and a nice clicky aperturing with an auto mode. And it seems nicely built, and it's obviously weather sealed, which is not so good on the X-E5, because X-E5, it was a disappointment to hear that it's not weather sealed. I think again at the price point, when you consider what the X100 is, it should have been weather sealed. I don't know why because even a novice using this camera, which it'll appeal to people who are travelling, who just want a basic click and go camera like they used to get Instants, I think they would have appreciated something that could survive a shower. The only advantage is that obviously you've got a gasket on the lens, on the 23mm, on the kit lens, which might give it a modicum of very mild moisture resistance, but the camera has no weather resistance rating, which is a shame. I mean, it'll work nicely on my my other Fuji cameras. And the only thing I will say in this video before I finish off is, and I'll do a little video on this and why I think, if you could, let me know in the comments if you think you're going to be interested in this, and also let me know in the comments what you think of the X-E5 and whether you're more excited to get one or whether you're disappointed in what I've told you, and you're not going to get one, and why you're not going to get one. But I basically sold my X-T5 and my XS20. And I went to the lovely London Camera Exchange in Newcastle, where I was shown the X-E5 as well, where I'd had mentioned to them that I was interested in getting an XH2S. And I went down and they'd had an X Demonstrator 1, which they'd very kindly put aside for me, which I'd written on the side of it, set a very special price for Natalie. Must be a good customer. And it's in immaculate condition. It's an X-Demo camera. I've got the full warranty on it, because it's obviously technically being sold as new after being used as a demonstrator. It had 400 shutter counts actuations on it. I've already done more than that on it, and it's brilliant. And it combines what I did with the XS20 and the XT5. And that's why I got it. But that's the story for another video, I think. So I've still got my little XM5 down here too. Which is that's the only two Fuji cameras I've got at the minute. Which I use as my travel camera. But I think the X-E5 is going to give me that camera that sits in between the XM5 and the XH2S. And I'll have basically 3 different Fuji sensor technologies. We'll have X-Trans 4, we'll have the stacked X-Trans 5, and then we'll have the 40 megapixel X-Trans 5 sensor as well, which gives me 3 very unique cameras. And that's why I decided to go for that. As much as I loved my X-T5, I also wanted that. So I've digressed at the end somewhat, but this is your chance to sort of have a say, as I say. Chat away in the comments. Let me know what you think. Tell me what you think if you think I'm mad. But I need to say thank you to London Camera Exchange for such a bargain of a camera and demonstrating the X-E5 for me. So always support your local camera shop, folks. Anyway, I will catch you all later in another video. Bye.